Gemini, welcome to your monthly horoscope for February 2024. My name is Zadina. I'm an intuitive astrologer. And in this horoscope, I will be walking you through each week of February, giving you a really good understanding of the major themes, topics, and energy that you will be navigating for the month ahead. So let's get right into it. So before I get started, I do just want to mention that coming into February, we have all planets direct. So it is go time. It is a time to start implementing and creating and building, because not just, do we have all planets direct, but we are still working with that Saturn Jupiter sextile, which I really love. And it is super supportive for building and creating something long lasting and sustainable. Now, coming into February on the 1st, we have Mercury forming a sextile to Neptune. And so we have quite a lot going on here in your eighth and your ninth house. We have a lot of Capricorn and Aquarius energy, and we now have Pluto back in Aquarius. Pluto is going to be in this ninth house for you for the next 2 decades. I mean, Pluto is going to re-enter Capricorn from September to November for just a couple of months, and then Pluto is going to enter Aquarius for good. However, the year of 2024, Pluto is going to pretty much be in Aquarius for the majority of this year, giving us a really good understanding of how this Pluto and Aquarius energy is going to show up for us individually and collectively, especially the month of February, because we have all of these personal planets that are currently in Capricorn entering Aquarius and forming a conjunction to Pluto. So we really want to be paying attention the entire month of February, what is showing up for us, because this is really going to give us a good idea of this Pluto and Aquarius energy. And you having Aquarius in your ninth house, which rules long distance travel, higher education, higher knowledge, wisdom, philosophy, belief systems, religion is also in the ninth house. And so astrology is actually in the ninth house too. Astrology can actually be in the eighth house too, I think. I think like the eighth, ninth, and 12th house can really be astrology. But teaching is also in the ninth house. And so there's quite a lot going on here in your ninth house, the month, especially the month of February. Now, when we have on the 1st Mercury forming that sextile to Neptune, Mercury is still going to be in Capricorn at this point, which I love, because the fact that Mercury is in Capricorn and Mercury ruling our mind and communication and thoughts, being in Capricorn is really having us kind of stay grounded, especially with the sextile to Neptune, because Neptune can sometimes over idealize or romanticize. But Neptune also rules creativity and imagination. And so having this Mercury sextile to Neptune is having us really able to utilize our creativity and imagination in constructive ways. I think that's the word I'm looking for, where we're able to put our creativity on paper. That's what I'm kind of, we don't have our head too much in the clouds. That Mercury in Capricorn is keeping us grounded, but able to kind of tap into, that imagination and creativity. This can also be really good for romance. Now, on the 5th, Mercury is going to enter Aquarius and form a conjunction to Pluto. Now, Mercury is your chart ruler. So Mercury is more significant. This Mercury energy is a lot more significant for you because Mercury is your chart ruler, which represents you. And so when Mercury forms a conjunction to Pluto, you're really going to feel this. So on the 5th, there could be something very intense showing up around your belief systems, or maybe something very intense showing up around long distance travel, or your religious beliefs, or something, around this ninth house, but also with you and your direction, your journey, because Mercury rules that 1st house. Mercury also rules your 4th house of home and family. So this conjunction to Pluto could have to do with you, your character, your personality, your perception, the direction that you're moving in, and also, your home, family, property, and real estate. Now, on that same day, February 5th, Venus is going to square Chiron, and you have this Chiron energy in your 11th house. But Chiron represents our wounds and vulnerabilities, and Venus naturally ruling our self-love and self-worth. This is where there can really be something triggered or activated around that lack of self-love, lack of self-worth, lack of self-confidence, and especially being in your 8th house, which can be very psychological. The 8th house rules, mental health really is an indicator in the eighth house, but also to your partner's finances, money coming in from outside resources, taxes, inheritance. The eighth house also has this transformational energy, like death and rebirth. But again, can be very intense around mental health and psychological. So when this happens, there can be, some type of trigger showing up for you, bringing something to the forefront, something to your awareness. That can be a little bit challenging, but I want you to remember that squares, yes, can be challenging. They can mean, a block, a hold, a stop, a delay. However, they bring on personal growth because through that challenge is where we grow. So keep that in mind, whatever is showing up for you on this day, heal. This is a chance and an opportunity to heal something within. Now, on that same day, we also have the Saturn Jupiter sextile, which is an energy that we've been in for quite a few weeks now. And this is really, adding to that supportive energy around building, creating, Jupiter. You have Jupiter in your 12th house of spirituality, places that are hidden, isolation, also self-undoing and self-sabotaging. So there might be, actually, this Jupiter Saturn sextile could really be bringing up a lot for you around self-sabotaging, maybe having you become more responsible and accountable for that part of you. And so that definitely something to kind of be aware of. Not that it's bad. Again, it is an opportunity for growth. Now, on February 6th, we're going to have Venus forming a T-square to the nodes. And when we have a T-square to the nodes, which you have the North Node in Aries in your 11th house of friends and friendships, social groups, and online connections and networking. And your South Node, the South Node is in your 5th house in Libra, which represents children, creativity, romance, hobbies, interests, everything you do for fun is in that 5th house. There's a lot of changes taking place this year in this area of life. So when we have Venus forming a T-square to these points, this is where there can be a decision or choice that really needs to be made here. A T-square can indicate tension. And so on this day or around this day, there really may be something showing up for you where you are having to choose, make a choice, around. It could have to do with relationships, your self-love, your self-worth. I mean, Venus rules that 5th house, and Venus also rules the 12th house. So there might be something here around isolation, self-sabotaging. Venus at that point too is still going to be in that trine to Uranus. So again, there might be something very unexpected showing up. Having you really become aware of certain things around self-sabotaging and self-undoing. However, the fact that it's coming to your awareness and you're becoming aware of it again is this opportunity for personal growth. And there might even have to be, having the North Node in the 11th can show a lot of changes with friendships and your online connections. So it may have to do with that as well. Now, on the 8th, we will have the sun forming a square to Uranus. And when we have the sun, which rules our consciousness, forming a square to Uranus, which literally rules the electrical systems in our body, so our energy is really being affected by this. I really look at this as a day where we're having these energetic ups and downs, where if it's kind of hard, like one minute we're vibing high, the next minute we're vibing low, and it is a square. Again, opportunity for growth. But if you're having a hard time of, keeping that higher vibration on this day, this is really just a day to take extra care of your energy and your physical body. Now, the sun rules your 3rd house too, of your mindset, your thinking, your thought processing, communication, also vehicles, community, neighbors. So there might also be something unexpected around that 3rd house, those 3rd house themes and topics too showing up that you're having to navigate. Now, on February 9th, we have our new moon in Aquarius squaring Uranus. And this is now I post new and full moon forecasts. So I'm not going to touch on them too much. I also, on my new moon and full moon forecast, I get into the chart. So I go over the energy a lot deeper and through all 12 rising signs. So make sure you check those out. But this is going to be our first new moon in Aquarius with Pluto. Now, Pluto has been a key player in the last few lunations. The new moon we had in Capricorn was our last new moon with Pluto in Capricorn. And this new moon we're having in Aquarius is our first new moon in Aquarius with Pluto. And so even our full moon that we had in Leo, it was the first time that we had the full moon in Leo opposing Pluto in Aquarius. So Pluto's been very significant in the last few moons that we've had. And this new moon is going to be also squaring Uranus. And I look at the charts for the new moons as imprints, like how these intentions are going to manifest and how the manifestation process is going to take place. And so, what this really shows is that whatever intentions you're setting at the time of this new moon in Aquarius, expect the unexpected. However you think it's going to play out, it's not. It's going to, things are going to come in. There's going to be twists and turns because Uranus is at play. Now, on February 10th, we will have Mercury forming a square to Jupiter. And Mercury still being in that ninth house in Aquarius, there can be a lot of ideas coming in, a lot of innovation because of the Mercury in Aquarius. And when we have that square to Jupiter, I look at this as too, it's almost like an overload of information or overload and too much coming in and not able to mentally process. I kind of look at this Mercury square to Jupiter, especially with Mercury in Aquarius. So collectively, we could be getting a lot of, information and news at this time. And for you, maybe you're having a conversation. And again, Mercury is your chart ruler. So this could just be an overload of something. Jupiter being in your 12th house, ruling that self-undoing and self-sabotaging. You do want to be mindful of that. Whatever you're moving through at this time, just be aware of those, self-undoing and self-sabotaging behaviors. Now, on February 11th is when we start that North Node Chiron conjunction, which is going to take place. It's going to be a 2-week transit, and this is when it really begins. Now, collectively, we're definitely going to see a lot, which I'll touch on in my collective forecast for February. But the North Node representing a new direction, a new journey that we're kind of moving towards, this really shows for me is that there is healing that needs to happen in order to kind of start moving in that direction. And that can really be, coming up at this time. Now, once we get to the second week of February, on the 13th, we're going to have Mars enter Aquarius and form a conjunction to Pluto. Now, we know that Mars can be quite volatile. Mars rules anger, aggression, conflict. Mars can also sever and sever and separate. Now, because you have all of this energy in your ninth house, I highly recommend as your astrologer not to do any long distance traveling at this time. Because there can be, a lot of, sudden changes. Can just be very hectic and not nice. So I don't recommend you traveling really through the month of February with all of this energy in the ninth, especially around the 13th when Mars enters Aquarius. Collectively, this is where we're going to start to see, possibly a lot of riots and protests, which I'll again get into in my collective forecast. For you, Mars rules your 11th house and is the co-ruler of your 6th house. And the 11th house, again, it rules friends and friendships, online connections. So you do want to be mindful of those 11th house themes and topics at this time. There could be something very transformational taking place with friends and online connections. Especially too, we want to keep in mind that Mars is the ruler of that North Node and Chiron energy. So there can be something very powerful coming in around healing at this time in the direction that we are all moving in, not just in our own individual lives, but as a collective. Now, because Mars is also the co-ruler of your 6th house, which represents work, health, and daily routine, there may also be something around those themes and topics showing up. Like maybe you have to suddenly change your health habits or nutrition habits, or maybe something suddenly changes within your schedule, something along those lines. Also, pets are in the 6th house. Now, on that same day, we have Venus forming a sextile to Neptune. And Venus is still going to be in Capricorn at this point. So again, I really, really love this for, creativity, imagination, romance. This is a really great energy for that. And because we have Venus in Capricorn, which is able to keep us grounded, where we don't have our head in the clouds, we really can utilize this Venus sextile to Neptune for creative pursuits or ventures and even romantic connections. This may even be really good too for self-love, self-worth, and self-confidence, tapping into our energy, our intuition, having that spiritual growth. Now, on February 14th, we have the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction come exact. And I believe at this point, they're at another degree. They're kind of doing this dance for a few weeks. On the 16th, we have Venus entering Aquarius and forming a conjunction to Pluto. And so now Venus is entering that ninth house, bringing more energy to the ninth house. And so, this area of life is very busy. So there can be a lot of focus on higher education, higher knowledge, again, belief systems. There might be a lot going on around your belief systems the month of February, maybe a lot changing. Your mindset could be completely changing too. Your beliefs on life and this reality could be completely changing because your chart ruler is in the ninth as well with all this energy. Now, on that same day, Mercury is going to square Uranus. And so this is where Mercury, again, being your chart ruler, there can be something very unexpected that you're having to navigate. But remember that those squares are opportunity for growth. Now, on February 18th, we have the sun entering Pisces. And we want to remember that Pisces season is going to feel different, just like Aquarius season is, because we now have Saturn in Pisces. Now on February 20th, and it's funny because the 20th, 21st, and 22nd, where Venus and Mars are doing this dance in Aquarius. Now they do come exact on the 22nd. So they're kind of moving together 5 degrees, 6 degrees, and 7 degrees. And I believe it's 6 degrees where they come exact. And this is in your ninth house. Now, collectively, this is where we can start to see protests. When we had the Venus Mars conjunction in Capricorn, that's when we had the trucker convoy in Canada. Now, Aquarius ruling the collective and humanity is when we really can be seeing, people showing up because it's conjunct Pluto. I mean, it's not in a tight orb, but Pluto is still a player. Now, for you, this can mean, Venus rules your fifth house of romantic connections and, a Venus Mars conjunction is just the masculine and feminine kind of coming together. So this could mean, something around relationships for you. Venus rules your fifth house of children, romance. So there can be something showing up around that, your creativity. Mars ruling that 11th house. So there could be something maybe creative that you're putting online, or maybe you're forming a lot of online connections at this time. Now on the 23rd, we're going to have Mercury entering Pisces. So there might be more focus. Now, when all this energy kind of shifts into Pisces, your 10th house rules career and public reputation. So it becomes a lot more focused on your career at this point, and maybe you're thinking more about your career as your chart ruler enters the 10th house. And you have Saturn in there. So there is a lot of changes taking place, this year with Saturn in your 10th house of career. Saturn usually rules responsibility, or not usually, does rule responsibility, accountability, commitments, dedication. Saturn can also delay things and take time. So there can be delays in this area of life. But there is a lot of changes taking place. And when Mercury enters that 10th house, there might be more focus on that. Now, on the 24th, we have the full moon in Virgo at 5 degrees, which is in your fourth house of home, family, property, and real estate. So there might be, a lot more focus on this area of life. And we're also going to have Venus forming a square to Jupiter at this point. Venus in Aquarius, squaring Jupiter. So Venus in Aquarius, this can be an energy of a lot of ideas, kind of a lot going on, squaring Jupiter, which is expanding that. Again, this could be just like a lot kind of coming in and not knowing how to navigate that. And this is not just going to be, personally, but also collectively. Again, we could be hearing a lot. There can be a lot online that we're kind of seeing at this point and not really knowing what to think or do about that. Now, once we get to the final week of February on the 26th, we will have Mars squaring Jupiter. And this is a pretty big energy. Mars squaring Jupiter again is similar to Venus squaring Jupiter, only Mars can be a lot more volatile. So there definitely can be something around the collective and people that we're seeing at this time. Now, in your own individual life, Mars ruling that 11th house and 6th house, there can be something in these areas of life with these themes and topics that you're having to navigate. But always remember that squares bring in opportunity for growth. Now, on the 27th, we will have Mercury So the 27th and the 28th, we have this interesting Cazimi take place. We have the Mercury Cazimi, but with Saturn. This is in your 10th house of career and public reputation, and this is your chart ruler. So there's something very significant taking place here, whether it has to do with you, your direction, your perception, possibly your career. Also because Saturn rules that 8th house as well, and Saturn is the co-ruler of the 9th. So there could be a lot too around mental health showing up. Maybe your mindset is completely shifting at this time. There could be opportunities coming in for your career. But this is really significant. I'm trying to think of, Mercury also rules your 4th house of home and family. So this could also even too be bringing something up around home and family that you're having to navigate. And when we look at Mercury Sun conjunctions, like Mercury Cazimis, this usually shows, some really amazing insight and inspiration, ideas. We have these aha moments or get these intuitive downloads. And I don't know how this is going to be with Saturn, because this is very different energy. And in Pisces, the sign of imagination, spirituality, and energy. I could almost just, I would like to think that this means like whatever is showing up for us, we're able to kind of ground this in and utilize this in a constructive way with that Saturn energy. However, Saturn can also sometimes bring delays, challenge, restriction. So it might even bring, some restriction in the information we're receiving, or the insight, or the not knowing, or even, it being very amazing, but it's going to take time in implementing it or moving forward, something along those lines. Now, February 29th, we'll have Mercury forming a sextile to Jupiter, and then the Sun forming a sextile to Jupiter. So this is really beautiful for whatever does show up with this conjunction, being able to utilize that in such an amazing way with this Jupiter energy, and Jupiter being in your 12th house, which the 12th house can rule spirituality, karmic energy, isolation, self-undoing, self-sabotaging. This could be, maybe becoming, I see. I don't even really feel like that. I'm not intuitively feeling that it has anything to really do with self-sabotaging or self-undoing. But this could be where maybe you're having some really beautiful spiritual insight to help guide you through whatever this kind of brings up for you. Now, Gemini, I hope that this helps you navigate the month of February. Thank you so much for joining me. If you align with my energy and enjoy my content, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will be posting these monthly forecasts every single month on the last day of the month. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a horoscope. And I also post a weekly forecast going through the charts for the week. And I also post full moon and new moon and full moon forecasts going into all 12 rising signs for every new moon and full moon. So subscribe so that you don't miss one of those. And again, thank you so much for joining me, and I will connect with you in the next one.